morning. This is Ma'am Ace, and for today we will discuss a new lesson. So, from our previous lesson, we discussed about the levels of organization. And for our recapitalization, it starts with the cell, the tissue, the organ system, and the organism. Okay, so we also tackled the instrument that we use to see the cell parts. And we use the microscope. Yes. And then, for today, we will now discuss the parts of a cell and the functions. And for that, we will discuss the animal cell and the plant cell. Let's start our discussion. According to the cell theory, cells is the basic unit of life, and cells arise from the pre-existing cells. The cell theory was formulated by German scientists Theodor Schwann, Matthias Claden, and Rudolf Bircher. Okay, so let's take a closer look to the parts of the animal cell and the plant cell. And let's look for the similarities and the differences of the two cells. Let's first discuss the parts and function of the animal cell. The plasma membrane or the cell membrane is the outer edge of the cell and forms the boundary between the inside of the cell with all of its organelles and the extracellular matrix. The cytoplasm is a thick, gel-like fluid that fills the space inside of a cell and in which the organelles are suspended. The name of the total contents of the cell minus the nucleus is the cytoplasm. The nucleus has two main functions. It contains all the deoxyribonucleic acid or the DNA of the cell, and it directs the activities of the cell. The nucleolus is a small area within the nucleus where ribosomes are made. The endoplasmic reticulum may be rough or smooth. Rough endoplasmic reticulum has ribosomes bound to its surface, and smooth endoplasmic reticulum does not. The rough endoplasmic reticulum modifies and transports the proteins made by the attached ribosomes for use or further modification, while the smooth endoplasmic reticulum modifies lipids and steroids. Ribosomes are organelles made of ribonucleic acid RNA and protein and are either attached to the endoplasmic reticulum or suspended in the cytosol. Ribosomes facilitate protein synthesis. Mitochondria are large organelles that have both an inner and outer membrane, as well as their own mitochondrial DNA. These are the site of cellular respiration in cells where oxygen and glucose are converted into ATP, which cells use for energy. The centrioles are small gatherings of microtubules that help with cell division during mitosis. The cytoskeleton is composed of a network of filaments and tubules that allows the organelles of the cell to remain in place and gives the cell strength and shape. The cytoskeleton can also play a role in transport within the cell. The Golgi apparatus is also made of cisternae that are not interconnected. The Golgi functions in packaging and shipping. It takes molecules produced by the cell, such as the proteins and the lipids, modifies them if necessary, and pack them into vesicles so that they can be shipped around or outside of the cell. Lysosomes are specialized vesicles in which protein enzymes are contained. They break down macromolecules into their components for further use by the cell. Let us now enumerate the parts and the functions of the plant cells. So here are the parts of the plant cell. So just like in the animal cell, it also contains the plasma membrane, the Golgi apparatus, the ribosomes, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, the nucleus and the nucleolus, the rough endoplasmic reticulum, the cytoplasm, and the mitochondria. And we all know that we can only find the chloroplast,
the cell wall, and the vacuole here in the plant cell. Okay, so we will just define those terms that we haven't defined yet because it is not included in the animal cell. Chloroplasts contain a green pigment that traps sunlight and converts it into sugars by a process called photosynthesis. The sugars are a source of energy for the plants and the animals that eat them. Cell wall is the rigid outermost layer of a plant cell. It makes the cell stiff, providing the cell with mechanical support and giving it protection. Animal cells do not have cell walls. Vacuoles. These are large membrane-enclosed compartments that store toxic waste as well as useful products such as water. These are mainly found in plants. Plasmodesmata are small channels that directly connect the cytoplasm of neighboring plant cells to each other, establishing living bridges between cells.
For learning task 1, I will show you a picture of organelles and you will identify the name of that organelle.
A few moments later.
For number 1, the answer is nucleus. For number 2, the mitochondrion. For number 3 is the Golgi bodies. Number 4 is the endoplasmic reticulum. And for number 5, it is the chloroplast.
Okay, for learning task 2, the organelles is giving their description job to you. Can you identify the organelles?
12 seconds later.
Let's now answer our learning task 2. So for number 1, hi, my responsibility is to add stability and protection to plant cells. What am I? So the answer in number 1 is the cell wall. Okay, so for number 2, hi, I produce proteins inside the cell. What am I? So it is the ribosomes which produces the protein. Number 3, hello, I have a green pigment called the chlorophyll. I also absorb solar energy to do the process of photosynthesis. What am I? So this is a part of the plant cell which is the chloroplast. Number 4. Good morning po. My work is to store food materials and excrete waste materials. So I take a large space on plants. I make the leaves of plants fresh. What am I? So ito po yung nasa gitna ng plant cell which is a big part of a plant cell. So that is the vacuoles. Number 5. Hi, all organelles are embedded in me. I am a jelly-like substance. What am I? So we can see it in both animal and plant cell. So the answer is the cytoplasm.
For learning task 3, you need to study carefully the picture that I will flash and you will relate it to the parts of the cell to the parts of a factory.
2 days later.
Let us now answer our learning task 3. So for number 1, as you can see, it is located in the center of the picture. So that is the part where it is the control center of the factory, or it is the brain of the factory. So the answer for number 1 is the nucleus. So for number 2, that is the part which carries all the information used to help a factory, for the factory to grow. So, just like in the cell, chromosomes acts like that, in which it helps the cell grow, thrive, and reproduce. Okay, so for number 3, it is the one with the fire, in which is the powerhouse of the factory. So it is the mitochondria, because the mitochondria is like the powerhouse of the cell, in which it breaks down the fuel. Okay, so the sugar produced in photosynthesis may be used by the plants in this, so just like in the factory. Okay, so number 4, the answer is the ribosome. So as you can see, what is produced in the number 4 is protein. And we all know that ribosome produces the protein needed by the cell. Okay, so number 5, as we can see, it is the part where the sugars are created. Okay, so it is the chloroplast because just like what is the definition of it in the plant cell, it absorbs light energy and convert it into chemical energy. So we can see in number 5 that it is a converter and the product is the sugar. For number 6, the answer is vacuoles because it is the storage of the factory. Just like in the cell, it stores water and food and also has the task of excretion of waste materials. Number 7 is the endoplasmic reticulum because as we can see, it is the transporter. Just like here in the factory, it is moving which transports different materials. So just like the endoplasmic reticulum in the cell, so it is used to transport proteins and other materials throughout the cell. For number 8, it can be a cell membrane or a cell wall because it is just like the skin that encloses the parts of the factory to the outside environment, just like in the plant cell or the animal cell. So it allows the entry of the materials inside the cell and it also where waste exists, just like in the factory.
For learning task 4, I will show you the organelles and you will identify if it is included in the plant cell, animal cell, or in both.
Several days later.
Okay, let's answer our learning task number 4. So for nucleus, the answer is it can be found on both animals and plant cells. Cell wall, it can only be found in plant cell. Vacuoles, so it can be found on both animal and plant cells. But in animal cells, it is only small, while in plant cells, it is a very big one that is placed in the middle. Lysosome can be found in both animal and plant cell, as well as the ribosomes. Nucleus can also be found in both animal and plant cells since both contains the nucleus. Centrioles can only be found in animal cell. Golgi bodies can be found on both plant and animal cells. Cytoplasm can also be found on both plant and animal cells. Amyloplasts can only be found in plant cell. Amyloplasts are found in roots and storage tissues and store and synthesize starch for the plant through the polymerization of glucose. Chloroplasts can only be found in the plant cell. The cell membrane and the mitochondrion can be found in both animal and plant cells.
For learning task 5, you will create your own 3D model of the plant cell and the animal cell, and don't forget to put the parts of both cells.
This is the objective, to be able to create your own animal cell and plant cell model using recycled materials. So you can use the materials below, such as the old pages of notebook, old newspaper, cornstarch, gaw-gaw or glue, old lid containers, food color, toothpick, and walis ting-ting. Guided questions. What kind of cell were you able to make, animal or plant? Number 2, what make it animal or plant cell? Number 3, what are the parts that you included in your own model of the cell? Number 4, what do you feel after you have done your work? Number 5, if you are going to do it again, how will you improve it? For learning task number 6, explain in your own words the following situations. Write your explanations in your answer sheet. Number 1. All living organisms have cells. Some are unicellular organisms wherein the cell is the organism itself. Explain why cells are the basic unit of life. Number 2. How can you take care of your cells? And number 3. Would life on Earth exist without cells? Why do you think so?
I've been reading books of old, the legends and the myths, Achilles and his gold, Hercules and his gifts, and Spider-Man's control, and Batman with his fist. And clearly I don't see myself upon that list. But she said, where'd you wanna go? How much you wanna risk? I'm not looking for somebody with some superhuman gifts, some superhero, some fairy tale bliss. Just something I can turn to, somebody I can kiss. I want something just like this. Oh, I want something just like this. Oh, I want something just like this. I want something just like this. I've been reading books of old, the legends and the myths, the testaments they told,